The shuttle was small and gray. It looked like nothing special compared to the massive warships and luxury cruisers that usually docked at Station Prime. The Galactic Council had seen thousands of species arrive at this place over millions of years. They had seen giant insects with armor harder than steel. They had seen creatures made of pure light. They had seen beings that could read minds and others that could bend space with a thought. But when the small gray shuttle opened its doors, only one man walked out. His name was. He was not tall. He was not strong. He had no claws, no fangs, no natural weapons of any kind. He wore a simple dark suit and carried a leather bag over his shoulder. His hair was black and neatly combed. His face was calm and friendly. He bowed politely to the welcome committee and said hello in a soft voice. The aliens looked at each other with confusion. This was the representative of humanity. This small, soft creature with no armor and no weapons. The species that had only discovered faster-than-light travel 30 years ago had sent this man to speak for them. The ambassador was a tall being made of living crystal. Her body was covered in sharp spines that glowed different colors based on her mood. She was over 800 years old and had negotiated with hundreds of species. She looked at and made a note in her database. Non-threatening, probably ceremonial, no real power. The warlord was even less impressed. He was massive, standing 3 meters tall with 4 arms and skin like stone. His people had conquered 60 star systems through pure military strength. He did not even bother to record the human's name. Why would he? Humanity would soon belong to someone else anyway. That was why the council had invited humans in the first place. It was not really an invitation. It was more like a notification. New species were brought to Station Prime so the major powers could decide who would absorb them. It was a polite way of conquest. The young species would be given a choice of which empire to join, and then their worlds would become someone else's property. Seemed to understand none of this, or perhaps he simply did not care. He smiled at everyone he met. He attended every dinner and every reception. He asked questions about everything. "Your crystal structures are beautiful," he told the ambassador. "How long does it take for them to grow?" "Your armor is impressive," he said to a soldier. "Is it naturally grown or crafted by hand?" He spent an hour talking to the delegation about their poetry. There were beings of living silicon, more like intelligent rocks than anything else. Most species found them boring and slow, but sat with them patiently, listening to their ancient verses and asking thoughtful questions. The other ambassadors watched and laughed behind his back. "The humans sent us a librarian," the warlord said to his advisors during a private meeting. "This will be easier than I thought. Their species has no spine. We should claim them before the due." "Agreed," said his chief advisor. "They are weak. They will make good workers for our mines." On the other side of the station, the ambassador was having a similar conversation. "Humanity has potential resources," she said. "There has rare minerals, but their military strength is zero. They have no real fleet, no weapons of significance. We should offer them protectorate status before they make their move." Neither of them thought to investigate further. Neither of them wondered why humanity had sent this particular man. They saw what they expected to see, a weak species sending a weak representative. This was their first mistake. Continued his quiet work. He learned the names of every ambassador and every aide. He memorized their customs and their histories. He discovered which species had old conflicts with each other and which ones had secret alliances. He found out who was trustworthy and who was not. His aide was a young woman named. She had served in human military intelligence for 15 years before being transferred to the diplomatic corps. She was trained in combat, surveillance, and information gathering, but even she was surprised by how much knew. "Sir, how did you learn that the ambassador has a daughter on the prison moon?" she asked one evening. "He mentioned her once 3 days ago," replied. "It was just one sentence, very casual, but his voice changed when he said it, a father's voice. "And you remembered that?" "I remember everything," he smiled gently. "That is my job." Had thought diplomacy was about making deals and signing treaties. She was beginning to understand it was about something much deeper. It was about understanding people, all people, even the ones who were not human at all. The welcome period lasted 2 weeks. During that time did nothing aggressive. He made no demands. He issued no threats. He simply watched, listened, and learned. The major powers grew more confident. Clearly, humanity was no threat. They began their negotiations to divide human space between them. The wanted Earth's moon for its minerals. The wanted the colony worlds for their agricultural potential. They argued over the details like merchants dividing up merchandise. No one asked opinion. No one thought they needed to. On the 14th night, stood alone at an observation window, looking out at the stars. Found him there, his reflection floating in the dark glass. "They have no idea who we are," he said quietly. "They see a young species with no fleet and no empire. They think we are children." "Are we not?" asked. "Compared to them, I mean. Some of these civilizations are millions of years old." Turned to look at her. There was something in his eyes that she had not seen before, something old and hard and patient. "Age is not the same as wisdom," he said, "and peace is not the same as weakness. Humanity did not come to the stars because we were gentle. We came because we survived everything that tried to destroy us." He looked back at the stars, including ourselves. Felt a chill run down her spine. She had read the history books. She knew what humanity had done to itself before the unification. The wars, the weapons, the endless violence. "They will learn soon," continued. "They will understand what it means to threaten a species that has already faced extinction 100 times. His voice was soft, almost sad. "I hope they learn quickly. I truly do not want this to end in blood." In 3 days, the hegemony would make their move, and everything would change. The formal dinner was held in the grand hall of Station Prime. It was a massive room with walls of transparent crystal that showed the stars in every direction. Tables floated in the air, each one adjusted for the specific needs of different species. Some were filled with water for the aquatic delegates. Others burned with fire for the heat-loving races. The air itself was divided into sections with different atmospheres. Sat at a small table near the center of the room. His meal was simple: rice, vegetables, and grilled fish. He ate slowly with chopsticks while the alien delegates around him consumed their own strange foods. Sat beside him, her eyes constantly scanning the room. She had noticed something wrong. The indelegations were sitting too close together. They had been enemies for centuries, but tonight they were almost friendly. That meant only one thing. They had made a deal. The ambassador stood up. Her crystal spines glowed bright blue, the color of formal announcements. The room fell silent. "Honored delegates," she said, her voice carrying through translation devices to every ear in the room. "I have an announcement of great importance." Set down his chopsticks. His face remained calm. "The Dominion and the Empire have reached a historic agreement," the ambassador continued. "Together, we will bring order and protection to the members of the galactic community." She turned to look directly at humanity. A holographic display appeared in the center of the room. It showed human space, Earth, the colonies, the outposts scattered across a dozen star systems. Red lines appeared around them, marking the borders of the proposed protectorate. "The terms are generous," the ambassador said. "Humanity will retain limited self-governance under our joint supervision. Your resources will be managed for the benefit of all. Your people will be protected from the dangers of an uncaring universe." The warlord stood as well, his massive form casting shadows across the tables. "You have 72 hours to accept these terms," he growled. "Resistance would be foolish. Our combined fleets are already moving to secure the Reach system. Your military cannot stop us. Nothing you have can stop us." He smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Be grateful we are being so kind. The other delegations watched with quiet interest. This was normal. This was how the galaxy worked. Strong species took what they wanted. Weak species learned to accept it. Humanity would kneel like all the others. Picked up his chopsticks again. He selected a piece of fish and ate it slowly. The room was silent, waiting for his response. The fish is very good, he said finally. My compliments to the kitchen staff. The ambassador's spines flickered with confusion. Did you hear what I said, human? I heard you perfectly, wiped his mouth with a napkin. You threatened my species with destruction if we do not surrender our freedom. You called it protection, you called it kindness. He stood up slowly. I have a different response. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small tablet. The guards tensed, hands moving to their weapons, but simply placed the tablet on the table. 16 hours ago, a single human vessel entered home space, he said. His voice was calm, almost conversational. It passed through your detection grid without triggering any alarms. It is currently holding position exactly 47 kilometers from your breeding moon. The ambassador's spines turned bright red, the color of alarm. 12 hours ago, a team of 6 human operatives landed on the continued. They are currently positioned in the maintenance tunnels beneath the Imperial Palace. They have been there for 11 hours. Your security has not detected them. The warlord roared and smashed his fist against the table. Lies, impossible. Contact yours suggested. I will wait. The next few minutes were chaos. The ambassador screamed orders into her communication device. The warlord did the same. Other delegations whispered to each other in confusion and fear. The humans had done what? How was this possible? Remained standing, his hands folded in front of him, was beside him, her heart racing. She had known something was planned, but not this, not something so bold. The ambassador's face had gone pale. Her spines were now flickering between red and white. It is true, she whispered. There is an unknown vessel near the breeding moon. Our entire defense fleet cannot find it. The warlord was shaking with rage. The palace guard has found nothing. They will not find anything, said. Unless we want them to. Our people are very good at hiding, warlord. We have had thousands of years of practice hiding from each other. He stepped forward, and somehow in that moment he seemed larger. Not physically, but in some other way. Like a shadow that had suddenly revealed its true shape. Let me be very clear about something, he said. We have not attacked. We have no desire for war. Our ships and our people are in position only as a demonstration. He paused. A demonstration of what we can do if we choose to. The ambassador found her voice. This is madness. You have no fleet. You have no weapons capable of threatening us. We have weapons you cannot imagine, replied softly. We spent 10,000 years creating them. Every tool of death that a mind can conceive, we have built. We have poisons that can kill a planet. We have bombs that can crack the core of a star. We have diseases that we designed in laboratories just to see if we could. He let that sink in. We used them on ourselves first. We killed billions of our own kind before we learned to stop. We stood at the edge of extinction not once, not twice, but dozens of times. His eyes moved across the room, meeting every gaze that dared to look at him. And we survived. Every single time we survived. The warlord bared his teeth. You expect us to believe that? I expect you to verify it, pressed a button on his tablet. I am transmitting our complete military history to every delegation in this room, every war, every weapon, every atrocity we committed against ourselves. Read it, study it, understand who you are threatening. He picked up his chopsticks and sat back down. You have 72 hours, he said, his voice returning to its normal gentle tone. I suggest you use them to reconsider your position. The fish really is excellent, by the way. You should try some before it gets cold. The room remained frozen. No one moved, no one spoke. Leaned close to him. Sir, what do we do now? Selected another piece of fish. Now we wait, and we see who is smart enough to be afraid. Emergency session began 1 hour after the dinner ended. Representatives from 40 different species crowded into the council chamber, shouting and arguing in 100 different languages. The translation system struggled to keep up. Did not attend. Instead, he returned to his quarters and made tea. Paced behind him, too nervous to sit. Sir, should we not be there? They are deciding our fate. They are deciding nothing, replied. He poured hot water over the tea leaves and watched the color spread through the cup. They are panicking. Panic does not produce good decisions. Let them exhaust themselves first. But the hegemony. The hegemony is already broken. Took a sip of his tea. The and only allied because they thought we were weak. Now they know we are not weak. Now they must decide if the alliance is worth the risk. He was right, of course. In the council chamber, the two powers were already turning on each other. Your security failed, the ambassador screamed at the warlord. You said your palace was impenetrable. Your detection grid was supposed to be perfect, he roared back. A single human ship sits next to your breeding moon and you did nothing. The other delegations watched with growing interest. The balance of power was shifting in front of their eyes. A species they had dismissed as primitive had just humiliated the two greatest military powers in the sector. By morning, 3 smaller nations had withdrawn their support for the hegemony. By noon, 2 more had done the same. The sent a private message to requesting a meeting. The did the same. Scheduled them all. He was very busy for the next several days. The came first. Their ambassador was a being of living stone, slow-moving and patient. Most species found conversations with the frustrating because they took so long to respond, but did not seem to mind. We have studied your history, the ambassador said. Each word took several seconds to form. It is remarkable. Thank you, replied. Our poets wrote of beings like you, long ago. They called them the soft warriors, creatures who appeared weak but carried fire in their hearts. The stone being's eyes glowed faintly. We believe you are the fulfillment of prophecy. Smiled, I am just a diplomat. No, that was certain. You are something more, we can see it. We wish to be your friends, not your enemies. What do you require? The negotiation took 4 hours. By the end, they had agreed to a full alliance with humanity, technology exchange, mutual defense, and open trade. It was the first treaty humanity had ever signed with an alien power. The meeting was different. Their ambassador was a beautiful creature covered in shimmering silk garments. Her species valued honor and tradition above all else. They had been conquered once, long ago, and had spent centuries rebuilding their culture. They feared conquest more than death itself. Spent the first 2 hours simply listening. He asked about history, their art, their music, their dreams. He learned that they had once been a great civilization before the crushed them. He learned that they had joined the hegemony only because they had no other choice. We hate them, the ambassador admitted. Her voice was thick with emotion. We smile and bow and follow their orders, but we hate them with every part of our being. Then why stay? Asked gently. Because we have no power, we have no fleet, we have nothing to fight with. Tears ran down her face. What choice do we have? Reached across the table and took her hand. It was a human gesture, one that might have been offensive to some species, but the valued touch. They showed friendship through contact. You have a choice now, he said. Humanity stands against the hegemony. We will not bow, we will not kneel, and we welcome any who wish to stand with us. The ambassador stared at him. You would ally with us. We have nothing to offer you. You have yourselves. You have your culture, your history, your courage, smiled. That is worth more than any fleet. By the time the ambassador left, she had signed a secret agreement of mutual support. They would not fight openly against the Yet, but they would share information. They would slow down hegemony operations wherever they could, and when the time came, they would stand with humanity. Watched all of this with growing amazement. She had been trained in intelligence work, in secrets and lies and manipulation, but was doing something different. He was building trust, real trust, the kind that could not be bought or forced. "How do you do it?" she asked him one evening. "How do you make them believe in you?" Thought about the question for a long moment. "I do not make them believe in me," he said finally. "I believe in them. I see what they could be, not just what they are, and I help them see it too." That sounds like philosophy, not diplomacy. They are the same thing. He stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. Every species in this galaxy has been taught that power comes from strength, from weapons and armies and conquest. But that is not true. Real power comes from connection, from understanding, from love, if you want to use that word. He turned to face her. Humanity learned this lesson the hard way. We nearly destroyed ourselves before we understood it. Now we have a chance to teach it to others. And if they do not want to learn? His expression grew sad. "Then we will do what we must to survive, but I hope it does not come to that. I truly do." The next day, the warlord requested a private meeting. Agreed immediately. "Put him last," suggested. "Make him wait like the others." "No," said. "He has waited long enough. It is time for him to understand." The meeting that followed would change the course of galactic history. The warlord's name was. Among his people, names were not given at birth. They were earned through victory. A warrior might live his whole life with only 1 or 2 names. Had earned 17 names across 400 years of conquest. He had never retreated from battle. He had never shown mercy to an enemy. He had never known fear. Until now. He entered the meeting room alone. This was unusual. Warlords always traveled with guards, but had left his warriors outside. He wanted no witnesses to what he was about to learn. Sat at a simple table with 2 cups of tea. He gestured to the empty chair across from him. "Please sit," he said. "The tea is a human drink. I think you might enjoy it." Remained standing. His 4 arms were crossed over his massive chest. "I did not come here for tea, human. I came for answers." "Then sit, and I will give them to you." For a long moment the warlord did not move. Then slowly he lowered himself into the chair. It groaned under his weight but held firm. "Your species is 30 years old," said. "You have no real military. Your ships are small and slow. Your weapons are primitive." He leaned forward, his stone-like face hard with confusion. "How did you penetrate our defenses? How did your people enter my palace without detection?" Took a sip of tea. "You ask 3 questions. I will answer them in order. First, yes, we are young by galactic standards, but age is not the same as experience. Humanity has been at war with itself since the beginning of our existence. We have fought millions of battles over thousands of years. Every generation invented new ways to kill and new ways to hide." He set down his cup. "Second, our ships are not slow. They are simply designed to look slow. Our weapons are not primitive. They are designed to look primitive. We learned long ago that appearing weak is often more valuable than appearing strong." His eyes narrowed. "You deceived us." "We allowed you to deceive yourselves. There is a difference," smiled gently. "Your people looked at us and saw what you expected to see, a young species, a soft species, prey." He shook his head. "You never asked what we were hiding." "And the third question, how did your people enter my palace?" Reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device. He placed it on the table and pressed a button. A holographic display appeared in the air between them. The images showed humans, but not the kind of humans had seen before. These humans wore dark armor and moved like shadows. They crawled through spaces that should have been too small for any creature. They disabled security systems in seconds. They passed guards without making a sound. "These are our special forces," explained. They are trained from childhood to infiltrate, observe, and if necessary, eliminate any target. The 6 operatives in your palace have a combined experience of over 90 years in the field. They have operated on 300 different worlds. They have never failed a mission. Watched the images with growing unease. He had seen skilled warriors before. He had fought elite soldiers from a dozen species, but there was something different about these humans, something in the way they moved. They were not just soldiers, they were predators. "Why show me this?" he asked. "Because I want you to understand something." Deactivated the hologram. "We are not your enemy. We do not want war with thee or anyone else, but we will not be conquered. We will not be enslaved, and if you force us to fight, you will lose." Slammed his fist on the table. "They have never lost a war." "Neither have we." His voice remained calm. "Not the wars that mattered. We have lost battles. We have lost millions of lives, but we have never been conquered, not by each other, not by nature, not by the universe itself." He paused. "Do you know how many times we came close to destroying ourselves completely?" He activated another hologram. This one showed images that did not understand at first. Strange clouds rising into the sky, cities reduced to ash, bodies piled in fields, children with empty eyes walking through ruins. "We invented weapons that could split atoms," said. "A single bomb could destroy an entire city. We built thousands of them. We pointed them at each other and waited for the end." More images. Factories producing poison gas. Laboratories filled with tubes and needles. Soldiers dying in trenches while machines rolled over their bodies. "We created diseases in our laboratories. We poisoned our own air and water. We burned our forests and drained our oceans. We did everything possible to destroy ourselves." Stared at the images. He had conquered many species. He had seen cruelty and violence on hundreds of worlds, but he had never seen anything like this. These creatures had done this to themselves, their own kind. "Why?" he asked. His voice was barely a whisper. "Because we could." The expression was sad. "Because we were afraid, because we were angry, because we forgot that we were all the same." He deactivated the hologram. "But we survived. Every time we survived. We learned from our mistakes. We grew. And finally, 30 years ago, we unified. Not because we became peaceful, but because we realized that if we did not stop fighting, there would be nothing left." He reached across the table and placed something in front of. It was a small metal sphere, ancient and. "This is a piece of the first nuclear bomb we ever created," said. "I carry it with me always, to remember what we are capable of, to remind myself why we must never go back to those days." Picked up the sphere. It was cold and heavy in his palm. "The galaxy sees us as children," continued. "They see our young civilization and our small territory and they think we are weak. But we are not weak. We are survivors. We have faced every kind of death imaginable and we are still here." He stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. "The ship near your breeding moon carries a device we call the Dead Hand. It is a weapon from our darkest era. If activated, it will destroy everything within 50 light years. Our ship, your moon, 100 inhabited systems, all gone in an instant." Felt his heart stop. "You would destroy yourselves." "We almost did, many times." Turned to face him. "That is what your people do not understand about humanity. We are not afraid of death. We have been looking at extinction since before we could walk upright. We made peace with it long ago." He returned to his seat and finished his tea. "I do not want to use that weapon. I do not want war. I want friendship and trade and peace, but I will not let my people be enslaved." He met the warlord's eyes directly. "So now you must decide are we enemies, or can we find another way?" Sat in silence for a long time. The metal sphere was still cold in his hand. He thought about his empire, his conquests, his centuries of victory. He thought about what it would mean to face a species that had already survived everything. Finally he spoke. "You are not prey," he said. Smiled. "No, We are not. The treaty was signed 17 days after the dinner that changed everything. They called it the Accord of Mutual Respect. The name was chosen carefully. Not a surrender, not a victory, just respect. Two words that meant more than any show of force ever could. The Dominion their claims on human space. The Empire did the same. The fleets that had surrounded the Reach system pulled back to their own territories. The ultimatum was officially canceled. In exchange, humanity agreed to share certain technologies, medical advances that could extend life, agricultural methods that could feed billions, small things compared to what they could have demanded, but had insisted. We do not want tribute, he told the council during the final negotiations. We do not want slaves or resources or territory. We want neighbors, partners, friends. He paused. Is that so difficult to understand? For many of the delegates, it was. The galaxy had operated on the principle of strength for millions of years. The strong took from the weak. That was the natural order. The idea that a species might choose something different was almost impossible to process. But slowly, things began to change. The poets wrote new verses about the soft warriors who had come from beyond the edge of known space. They sang of creatures who carried fire in their hearts, but chose to offer warmth instead of destruction. These poems spread across the galaxy, translated into 1,000 languages. They emerged from their long silence. With humanity's support, they began to rebuild their culture openly. Their art and music and literature, long suppressed under rule, flourished once again. They sent their first independent ambassador to Station Prime in 3 centuries. Even the changed. Their ambassador sent a gift after the treaty was signed, a crystal containing the complete philosophical writings of her species. It was an honor normally reserved for the closest of allies. The inscription on the crystal translated roughly as, "To the warrior who wields patience as a blade." Returned to Earth a hero. Crowds gathered at every spaceport to cheer for him. News broadcasts showed his face constantly. Politicians fought to shake his hand and be photographed beside him. He hated every moment of it. "I am not a hero," he told as they escaped from yet another celebration. "I did not defeat anyone. I did not save anyone. I just talked." "You saved all of us," she replied. "You saved humanity." Humanity saved itself, a long time ago when we chose to stop fighting. He looked tired, older than his years. I just reminded the galaxy of what we learned. The years that followed were not easy. Change never is. Old powers resented the new balance. Some species refused to accept that humans deserved equal standing. There were conflicts, disagreements, even small wars in distant systems. But the hegemony never reformed. The UN remained separate, their alliance shattered by mutual distrust. And humanity grew, not through conquest but through connection. They built bridges where others had built walls. They offered help where others had offered chains. The warlord surprised everyone. 2 years after the treaty, he arrived on Earth with a small delegation. He requested what he called cultural exchange. They had never requested such a thing from anyone. They took what they wanted. They did not ask permission. Spent 6 months living among humans. He visited their cities and their villages. He watched their children play in parks. He sat in their theaters and listened to their music. He read their history books, all of them, even the parts that made him uncomfortable. When he finally left, he held a press conference at the main spaceport. Reporters from every species crowded around him, waiting for his verdict on humanity. He spoke only 4 words. "They are not prey." The quote became famous. It was carved into monuments and printed on posters. It became humanity's unofficial motto among the stars. Not prey, never prey. Years later, found in his garden. He had retired from diplomatic service and now spent his days growing vegetables and reading books. His hair had turned gray. His hands were spotted with age, but his eyes were still sharp. "I have a question," she said, sitting beside him on a wooden bench. Something I have wondered for a long time. Ask. That night at the dinner when you revealed what we had done, the ships, the operatives, everything, she paused. Were you afraid? Was quiet for a moment. He watched a butterfly land on a flower nearby. Yes, he said finally, I was terrified. I thought my heart would explode from my chest. I thought I would forget my words or say the wrong thing or make everything worse. He laughed softly. I was so scared I could barely breathe. But you did not show it. No, I did not. How? He turned to look at her. His old eyes were filled with something she could not quite name. Pride, maybe, or sadness, or both. That is the human secret, he said. We are always afraid. Of death, of failure, of the unknown, of each other. Fear is our constant companion. We wake with it. We sleep with it. We carry it every moment of our lives. The butterfly flew away, disappearing into the sunlight. But we learned something that the galaxy never understood, continued. Fear does not have to control us. It does not have to stop us. We can be afraid and still act. We can be terrified and still stand. We can face impossible odds and say no to powers that should crush us without effort. He smiled, the same gentle smile he had worn in every negotiation, every meeting, every moment of crisis. The galaxy expected us to be afraid of them. They thought our fear would make us kneel. He shook his head slowly. They did not realize we have been afraid of things far worse our entire existence. They did not understand that we are experts in fear. He picked up a small watering can and began tending to his plants. After you have faced yourself, he said quietly, after you have stared into the darkness of your own heart and survived, what is there left to fear? A few aliens with big ships and loud voices. He laughed again. Please, we have been scaring ourselves since before we could make fire. Sat with him until the sun went down. They did not speak much more. They did not need to. The world was at peace. Humanity was safe. The stars, once cold and threatening, now held the promise of friendship and discovery. It had taken a species that nearly destroyed itself to teach the galaxy what survival really meant. Not conquest, not domination, just the simple, stubborn refusal to give up, to keep going, to find hope even in the darkest places. And in the end, that was enough. It was more than enough. It was everything.